Hi, I'm Rebecca. This is Carnivore Wellness with another video on how to help you get started with carnivore. This video will cover 7 questions you should ask yourself before you decide which path to take in starting your carnivore diet journey. For many people, there are 2 key approaches. One is hardcore carnivore. Dive right in, eat meat, eat eggs, eat cheese, eat fish, eat all of the animal products, all of the meats, and just go straight into carnivore right from the jump. That can be a little intimidating to a lot of us. So many people decide to use a crowding out approach in which they will slowly increase the amount of meat that they're eating while decreasing amounts of other foods, eliminating processed sugars, then going on further to eat only whole foods, and then perhaps adopting one meal each week that is going to be a solely carnivore meal before progressing into essentially a full carnivore diet by slowly crowding out all of the other foods. So 2 approaches, hardcore carnivore or a crowding out approach. Which one should you take? Consider these 7 questions as you try to decide how you should start your carnivore diet journey. Number 1, have you been eating a diet high in sugar and processed foods? Be honest with yourself. If you are coming from a standard American diet, most likely the answer is yes. That is going to be one of the hardest things for you to overcome, which is eliminating those processed foods and sugar. If you are a person who regularly incorporates these foods, that is the number one thing to kick to the curb to help you get started on your carnivore diet journey. All of those foods are incredibly inflammatory and also highly addictive. So the sooner that you can get those out of your daily, intake, the better. So if that is the case, you will want to start with a crowding out approach and start, of course, by kicking those processed foods, those additives, those sugars, those, dyes and artificial everything to the curb. You don't need those. Instead, replace those foods with fatty, meaty foods. Instead, crowd out. Number 2, have you been eating a plant-based diet high in fiber and low in animal protein and fats? If this is the case, your body is used to processing all of that fiber, even if it results in a lot of digestive bloating, distress, constipation, and or the opposite. You will likely need to take a crowding out approach, and you need to make sure that you do this so that you are tapering down the amount of fiber that you eat each week by about 25%. Anything greater than that is going to result in some very uncomfortable digestive system symptoms. So again, if you are coming from a background of high plants, high fiber, please take it slowly, and instead of going full on carnivore and experiencing a litany of digestive distress for a couple of weeks up to a month or 2, instead, take a gentle approach. Focus on tapering down that amount of fiber and instead replacing that fiber with animal fats and protein, meat. All right, question number 3. Have you been eating an animal-based, low-carb, or ketogenic diet over the last several months? If you have, then you are very likely well on your way through the process of crowding out all of the other foods and taking a more gentle approach to carnivore. If you are keto, if you are animal-based, you are so close to carnivore that you really probably could go straight into a hardcore carnivore approach. You will still have some, symptoms of adaptation that might be a bit unpleasant, but likely much more tolerable than someone who is coming from a standard American diet or someone who is coming from a heavily plant-based, high-fiber diet. So again, you can choose either in this case. You could simply continue to crowd out foods, dropping the other foods that are non-carnivore foods, and crowd it out, or you very well could handle the transition from going from your current way of eating right into a hardcore carnivore diet approach, especially if that will help you and your personality and your background most in the long run, which we'll talk about in a bit. So question number 4, do you have an autoimmune condition or a chronic health condition that needs to be readily addressed? So this takes some nuance to answer this question. If you have an autoimmune condition, obviously, in order to get to root cause healing, you've got to reduce inflammation. The number one way to do that is through a carnivore way of eating. It is the most anti-inflammatory way of eating. That said, your body may already be going through a lot of stress as it has to navigate this autoimmune condition. You may need to consider a gentle approach to transitioning to carnivore. Do so with diligence and continual progress forward, but you may need to take a crowding out approach to the carnivore diet so that you are able to allow your body to gently transition. Also, you may be in a hurry to see transformation and change. You may already be so miserable that you can, handle the discomfort, of the adaptation process, and you're ready to go hardcore carnivore. Either way, for those of you who are dealing with autoimmune conditions and want to address those with the carnivore diet, I highly encourage you all to speak with a trusted physician or doctor who can help you navigate that process. You likely have a few more extra, things to consider as you navigate this process. So please work with a trusted physician always in that case. But again, you may find that a gentle approach is what's best for you. You may also be really ready to see results, in which case you're ready to go hardcore carnivore. That choice is up to you. But again, work with a trusted practitioner. All right, number 5. Do you have a history of disordered eating, excessively tracking your calories and macros, or an otherwise compromised relationship with food? Are you an emotional eater, a binge eater? Think about this. If so, you may find that very clear parameters around a hardcore carnivore approach are most beneficial for helping you stay on track. I am one of these people who has a disordered relationship with food in my background, and a more hardcore carnivore approach helped me. That said, I did come from a ketogenic diet background 5.5 months prior to transitioning to carnivore. So I did already have some of that crowding out approach as a foundation. But once I decided to go carnivore, I really needed to stick with it, and the clear boundaries, clear parameters around what to eat and what not to eat really helped serve me. It also was a wonderful tool for quickly eliminating cravings. Within 2 to 3 days, I had no more cravings, which was a godsend for me because I was still at the point where I was, binging on keto-friendly foods that just were still not ideal and were causing inflammation. So if you need to quickly quiet cravings, if you struggle with your relationship with food, it may be worth it for you to go through some of those digestive troubles, 2 or 3 weeks of your system trying to acclimate to the higher fat amounts and low fiber, and that may be beneficial for you. So if you have a history of disordered eating or emotional eating or any kind of odd relationship with food, be honest with yourself about that, and you may want to consider a hardcore carnivore approach. That said, crowding out can still work. It may just be a bit harder for you, as moderation tends to be a little bit more difficult for those of us who fall into that category. All right, now to number 6. Are you an athlete, or are you an individual who works in a highly physically demanding job? If so, if you regularly rely on peak physical performance, you may need to consider a crowding out approach, because a hardcore carnivore approach is going to result in a temporary but noticeable setback in energy. You're more likely to experience some headaches, some fatigue as you transition, and that can make it very difficult for you to show up and do the things in your life that you normally do. So if you are someone who needs peak physical performance, you may want to try a crowding out approach, slowly bringing in more meat, slowly leaving out some of those other non-carnivore foods until you gradually find your way into a full carnivore diet. And it is worth noting that even though you may experience a setback in performance initially, many carnivores find that within 6 months or less, they have not only regained that level of peak performance they had initially, but they have surpassed that and are able to continue progressing in their physical abilities. So it's definitely worth doing, even if you're an athlete or someone who has to work a very physically demanding and taxing job. All right, number 7, this last one. How tolerant of discomfort are you? Can you persevere through temporary challenges and setbacks or obstacles? Or do big obstacles quickly derail your progress? This is one of those questions where this is largely determined by your own set of experiences, your personality, how you know that you respond to different situations. Really take a moment, sit with yourself, ask yourself this question. How tolerant of discomfort are you? Can you put up with the transition symptoms that come with going hardcore carnivore? Is that worth it to you to just go ahead and, cross that barrier of needing to adapt and navigating those transition symptoms? Or do you need something that is a bit more gradual an approach because those setbacks would quickly derail your efforts? So really know yourself before you answer that question and take that into consideration. Obviously, if challenges and setbacks shake your commitment and make it hard for you to continue putting forth the effort towards your goals, then the crowding out approach will serve you best. If you tend to meet obstacles and challenges head on and you accept them as temporary setbacks, you keep your objective, and you tend to find that you take an all or nothing, kind of more stubborn approach to things in life, then you may be best served by going hardcore carnivore. Now, I've touched on some of these, hardcore carnivore adaptation symptoms, and so some of you may be kind of panicking and wondering, wait, what are those? Well, okay, let's dive into it. A lot of it is related to your digestion, but also a bit to your energy levels and your electrolyte levels. So very quickly, when you transition to carnivore, especially if you do so overnight rather than crowding out gently, you will experience some digestive discomfort, usually in the form of diarrhea, for about 2 weeks. So there is a carnivore, saying out there that says never trust a fart. It's a little crass, but it's also very true. You get to a point where you no longer have gas and bloating, so you may think that you have a little toot, but really you need to run to the bathroom because you might have some very loose and sudden stool. So that frequent urgency to go is very prevalent in the first couple of weeks. And for most people, that resolves within 2 weeks, unless, of course, you have a history of digestive poor health, in which case that period of time may be longer for you. So consider that as well as, in trying to decide if you want to go hardcore carnivore or if you want a gentle crowd out approach. Another thing that people experience is a dip in their energy level. They experience some fatigue, especially around days 3 and 4. That's kind of when the body starts to use up the last of the glucose reserves, all the sugar, stored carbohydrates that you have in your body. And suddenly the body is then having to really work to get energy from fat. And it takes a bit for the metabolic machinery to switch over and to do that effectively. So people can experience that as a lull in their energy, some fatigue, some headaches, some irritable mood, even some cloudiness in their mind. A lot of that can be helped by using an electrolyte supplement. So either salting your food heavily to taste or also including a supplement that includes potassium, magnesium, and of course salt. So if you need to do that, you can use something, what I've used in the past is the Element packets. I use the raw unflavored Element, can add that to your water. And, it doesn't have any sweeteners or anything else added. It's simply those electrolytes in the right ratios. And that can really help mitigate some of those symptoms. So just plan for it. If you are going to go with the hardcore carnivore approach, around days 3 to 5, you're probably not feeling too hot. But hang in there, and as you get through that, your body will more quickly adjust, and you will be through that period of transitioning, especially as your electrolyte balance changes and shifts as you start to shed the excess water along with the excess carbs. So be mindful of that. And then, of course, that lower energy, that fatigue, like if you're working a physical job, that will be noticeable for you. So that might be a deal breaker in trying to go hardcore carnivore. You might need to gradually transition with a more gentle crowding out approach to make sure that you're still able to meet the physical demands of your day. But if you can tolerate that handful of symptoms, really the first 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks is the toughest. And then after that, people really start to find their bearings. They start to feel a lot better. That's when they start to notice improvements. Give carnivore 30 days. Better yet, give it 90. In the first 30, you're really going through a lot of adapting. The body is in the process of doing a complete overhaul in metabolic machinery and the way that it functions. So give it 30 days and then give it 2 more months after that. The body, I love to say this all the time, takes, the healing cycle in the body takes place in 3-month windows of time. So give yourself 3 months to really get into carnivore, to sink your teeth into it, and to see what kind of benefits are there in store for you as you eat an anti-inflammatory diet that is hormonally supportive and allows you to achieve optimal health and healing. We'll wrap it up there with those 7 questions and a few little things to consider as you possibly transition to carnivore in a hardcore carnivore approach and the symptoms you have to deal with. If you found this information helpful, please like and subscribe. If you would like more information like this, or if you would like to connect with fellow carnivores on their meat-based journeys, I would encourage you to come check out the Carnivore Wellness Community. It is a community I've created on the Mighty Networks platform. Over there, I have an entire free e-course ready for you as soon as you sign up so that you can go through all of these lessons and gain all the information you need, not only to start carnivore and to know how to go through it, where I detail, these 2 different plans, hardcore carnivore versus gentle crowding out approach to carnivore, but I also give you plenty of resources to help bolster your confidence in this way of eating and know that this is indeed the right way for us as humans to eat. So if that would be helpful, please go check that out. I'll put the link in the description box. And if you want to take it a step further and have increased accountability, support, guidance, inspiration, and hope from others in the community, I would highly encourage you to sign up for our monthly commitment space. This allows you access to 3 times a week, weekly live Zoom call meetings with me and other carnivores at various points in their carnivore journey so that we can all connect with one another, support each other, ask questions, talk about various topics that relate to this lifestyle and support one another in that. So if you're interested in that, that link is down below as well. I hope to see you over in that community. If not, I will see you in an upcoming video. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you found this helpful. See you next time.